Okay guys, before I get started painting, there's a couple things I wanted to go over and just kind of show you before, as far as tips go. So obviously, I've got the entire car completely masked. It is ready to go. Before you start painting though, you need to take a second, check it what time your temperature is and what time your humidity is. This might seem kind of like an odd thing, but it is going to affect how you're going to paint and how you're going to want to paint. So if you're on a very, very hot day and you don't have a climate controlled environment to work on it, and you've got no humidity, so it's hot and it's dry both, you are going to need to get that paint on and get it on quick. So you might need to even divide up sections that you're going to be doing it. Like you might need to mask off the door and the hood per se and bumper and do just the fender, get it done, move on, because it should dry relatively quick. Then you're going to go say just hood and maybe bumper, or just divide the parts up, because if you try and do the entire car, like, okay, I'm going to go do the entire car just a light coat and then come back, by the time you get back to it, your first coat might be drying, especially if you're using a true good set of paint that includes a hardener in it, and you might have accidentally put a little too much hardener in there. Or even if you have the correct amount of hardener in your paint, it's just going to start drying before you're ready for it, and it's going to cause you to have a bad paint result. That's something no one really talks about on any YouTube channels I've seen. So temperature, humidity, both very important factors. Of course, too cold, your paint's not going to want to come out right either. But once you've got everything or let me rephrase that. From the time that you have wiped it down with alcohol, whatever you've used to prep your paint surface, you do not want to go back and touch the paint do that as little as possible, because every time you do it, you're putting oils onto the paint. For those oils are going to just give it a more likely chance that it's not going to adhere right to the metal, to the paint, whatever. So you're not going to want to do that. And if you're painting something, let's say you're painting this wheel cover here. So let's say you're painting this wheel cover right here, right? So instead of just, which I've obviously not prepped this thing, so just here with me. So instead of just doing like little coats like that, trying to get up and through there, just do long strokes all the way across everything. That's going to give you a more even paint finish. Get the entire thing just like that, because that's going to give you a more even paint finish. You're going to be less likely to cause runs, and you might, as compared, like, so if you want to do just this, go all the way across it. That way you're not stopping right here and then letting off, because you'll run there on the edges. But one more thing before ever starting and painting on a vehicle, make sure you have a mask. It doesn't have to be a high-dollar respirator. It doesn't have to be anything that's, definitely a high-dollar respirator, whatever, that's going to be better. Definitely, 100%. If you can afford it, go do it. You're going to use it multiple times, especially if you're a hard enough worker to do all this. You'll probably paint another car. But use something, because from the one car I did without it, it was horrible. I painted a pickup blue, and for the rest of the day, next 3 days, I should say, I had blue paint coming out of my sinuses. I was coughing it up out of my lungs, and granted, it wasn't fun by no means, but it wasn't horrible either. But the adverse health effects of having paint and whatnot in your lungs for a couple hours is going to affect you your whole life. So take the time, wear the mask, don't put yourself in danger, especially considering the fact you don't need to, and if possible, always paint in an area where there's no wind, and make sure that any vehicles or anything that you don't want to get painted has been pulled back a little ways, so that you don't have the overspray somehow in any way get to your vehicles. So I pulled that one back about 50 foot to make sure that it was away from this. But, alright, let's get started. if you can see it right there, right there. There's a spot that's not wanting to get covered up. And what I did is I just did a normal coat over it, or a lighter coat, and now I'm going to go back. Just keep hitting that. Give it time to dry a little bit. Go back, hit it again. point, we got paint on the car. It's still damp, not dry. So I'm going to go back over it. I'm going to spray it with this clear. That way it has a little bit of a gloss once we're all said and done.